Welcome to the Computer Repair Podcast, episode number 292, Work Life Unbalanced. I'm your host, Jeff Halash. This is our live show where we discuss the ins and outs of running your computer repair business. Let me introduce the co-hosts. We have Brad Torrey from TTCS Computer Services. How are you doing, Brad?
Wonderful. Just enjoying the last little scraps of summer that we've got.
Whatever. And also next to him, hopefully not as well, actually, these are two peas in a pod, Adam Carpenter from IT Professionals of Iowa. Adam, how are you doing?
Good. It's actually down to in about the mid to upper 60s now here, so fantastic.
I'll tell you what, it is fall here in Michigan, and I am loving it. I went on a walk yesterday and did not sweat at all. It was great. All right, let's go ahead and share a tip or story that we could learn from. And Brad, since you are the master storyteller right now, I'm just making that up. You go ahead first.
That's funny because in my notes, I wrote to myself, all right, story time with Grandpa Bradford. So, and this story is called A Little OCD Goes a Long Way. So yesterday, okay. I'll preface this. I've been getting really busy. This last week, kids started school. There's all of that. We, had the Labor Day off, which seems like a nice thing, except that it means it's a one less day that if I, to work and all that. So there's catch up. Went to Chicago. Had a great time at the IT Owners Compass, but there's again time to catch up. So I've been really busy, and actually, it works well for this topic today because just regaining balance and flow. But anyway, so yesterday I had a customer who had paid me in cash because it's a restaurant and they just would rather, they don't want to deal with bills. So they paid me with cash. I put it away and I go to the grocery store to buy groceries and I go, oh, I just lost $250. Where was that? Like, what the heck? And guess where I found it?
I have no idea.
In my wallet.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
But it wasn't where I know, normally I put my money in proper order, blah, 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 in the billfold section. I had just kind of tucked it real quick and then closed the wallet up. So when I'm going to look for it, I was like, well, that sucks. Good thing I have money in my bank account today, and like use my debit card. But another time recently, I was like doing an install and looking for a cable that I know I have. Can't find it in the spot where it's supposed to be. It was in sometimes if I'm in a hurry and I get a box received with supplies, I'll just kind of throw the box in the truck and then sort it as I go. Found the cable in that the miscellaneous box, but I received that box like 2 weeks ago. There's no reason for me not to have like inventoried it properly and followed my system. So anyway, so this weekend's been reset, flip the OCD switch on, organize my inventory, clean up, and just kind of reset so that going into this next week, I'm not losing my mind on stupid things like not putting money in your wallet in the right way so that you can actually find it when you need to buy things. So
that's good. I think it's going to go along with our story of Work-Life Unbalanced and some of the things that's a perfect story of what we're going to talk about here in a little bit. So I think that's good. Oh, all right. So let's go on and move on to Adam. And why don't you share a tip or story with us that we could learn from?
So, real short story. For the IT Owners Compass that we went to, one of the concerns we had was leaving Friday because the only two people in the company were going to be on the road. And so, you know what? Nothing happened. No big deal. So so for me, this was the first event or conference that I had gone to. Prior to that, the thought was always, well, if I'm not here, who's going to do work? Well, we've got everybody in a good place and nothing blew up.
Nice.
So it is possible.
That's a good, and that goes into, I was just, I'm finishing up Clockwork from Mike McAllowitz, and he kind of talks about having your business be able to run without you running everything all the time. So there's a lot of good tidbits in there that I picked up from the book, and we'll talk about it probably here in a couple weeks once I finish it. Very good. All right, so let's see. I'm going to share a story with you. And that story is we're throwing a conference. Yeah, we're throwing a meetup conference. A lot of you that had seen it on show episode number 291, we talked about it. It is officially called TechCon Unplugged. Now, before I give you the dates, I will tell you a little story about where the name came from. So we've been thinking about this event for a couple of years. As a matter of fact, last year we were going to do it, but decided to pull back and wait one more year. And so my wife had come up with the name TechCon. And for somebody that's outside of the IT business, outside of the what we do, for her to have something that was like, oh yeah, this is good. Now, a lot of people out there would think, well, there's probably a lot of tech cons. There's some, but they usually have something or other tied to it. There's not really a tech con just itself. There's usually something that they added to it. So the unplugged part came from our good friend and also cohort in putting this together, and that is Paco LeBron. Paco came up with, he said, what about TechCon Unplugged? And the reason he came up with that is because months ago, I said I was going to do a session in this podcast about Jeff Unplugged. So he kind of married the two together and said, let's call it this. And I think it is a phenomenal, it's a fun name. And it kind of gives you that, hey, unplug from your business. Let's get together. Let's have a great time. And for those of you that were sitting at the table last conference, a couple weeks ago in Chicago, when we were sitting there, you'll notice one thing about our particular table is that we were giggling and just carrying on the whole time. When we get together, us guys and gals, we just have fun. And then later on, we carried that into Marvin's room. But what happens in Marvin's room?
I thought we were going to get kicked out of the conference, actually.
I thought you guys were too, and that's why I left and went to bed. But the point is we really like getting together with people. We like sharing ideas. The conversations in the hallway, in the little drink area was phenomenal and the best part of getting together. And we want to recreate more of that, more opportunities to do that. So the official dates are September 20th through the 22nd, 2019. Now, a lot of people have been sharing with us the places that they would like it to be. And we understand and we listen to everybody. And our long-term goal, if and when, and I think it will be pulled off, I think it's going to be a winner, but we'll see, is we would love to be able to probably move this thing around. But for the first one that we're doing, we got to have a little more, we got to be close to the venue in order to make sure that things are taken care of and good. And let me explain. There's two places that we have picked so far. Actually, there's three. There's two in one place and one in the other. Okay, we have Rosemont, Illinois. Okay, and the reason for that is it's close to the airport. It's in the business district. The hotel and venue, everything, it's literally tied together. And so we don't have to walk outside. You can literally walk from your room down to a conference room and boom, there you are. And we plan on having food and all that kind of good stuff. Two, we found two places in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And this is a neat little town, and everybody knows that John Dubinsky actually lives in Grand Rapids. So these are one of the places that Paco had visited this last weekend and was checking some of these venues out. And he fell in love with one of them. Both of them will work, but one of them, he was like, oh, this is really, really nice. And it's in a good area, and we're going to have a blast. So again, this conference is about bringing the collaborative unit or the community together and unit. Yeah. Till I was in the military. Anyways, the community together and bringing along people's ideas. We want to, some of the things that have been talked about in past events, no matter whose they were or what they were, is there's a lot of past events where there was workshops available and people really enjoyed the workshops, seeing how somebody else does something. And that's what we want to create. We want more of those moments, and we want more of just people sharing of, hey, here's what I do, and having the questions from the audience and different things like that. So that's one of the things we're really looking at. Is this is a community-based effort? to bring together, not only separate yourself from your business for a couple days, kind of a getaway, but it's a work getaway. Now, work and fun all together, and that's what we really want to recreate. So that's our goal, and we'll be talking about this more in the future. But right now, you can go to TechConUnplugged.com. Yes, I bought the domain name a few days ago. I had a couple other ones we were going to use, but this will work out fine. So it was available, believe it or not. TechConUnplugged.com. Go there, sign up. You'll get on a mailing list. We will have your information so that we can send out more information as it comes available. And I've been wanting to do this for a long time. Now, my heart wants to do this. My mind tells me, are you nuts? And so I'm going to tell you right now, if it wasn't for Paco in wanting to do the on the ground work that he's doing, and if it wasn't for the other people that from our secret Facebook group that came together and said, I want to help, I want to help, I want to help. If it wasn't for those two things right there, there is no way in the world I would even entertain this, because it does take a lot of work and it does take a lot of effort. But I think we're going to simplify it, and we're going to make it the best event for our group of people for what we want to do, what we want to share, and go from there. So anyways, I'm going to get off my soapbox now, Brad. Just, like I said, go to TechConUnplugged.com and sign up today. And we'll be talking about this every week as new things come available. We will let you know. It's a year away. We've got plenty of time to plan, and we are like, because of the pre-planning we've done in the past for like the last 2 years, we already have a bunch of stuff that's already there. Everything is falling into place, and welcome to my life. This is the way things usually go for me. It's work, but it's also fun work. So anyways, go there, check it out. And it's just a simple website. So don't, it's not fancy or anything like that. We don't have, beautiful pictures on there or nothing. We've got people working on logos and stuff right now, and all that stuff is coming. It'll be fine, but it doesn't matter. Again, it's just about getting together. All right. So let's see. Let's go ahead and talk about our particular topic, and that is work-life unbalance. How do you make sure that you have balance in your life? Now, I want these guys to talk first before I kind of go into some of the things. But when you hear and a lot of people will talk from a standpoint of work-life balance. So balancing your work and your life together. So I didn't come up with this term, but I heard somebody else say it at one point, and this kind of made sense to me, where they were saying work-life unbalanced. And so whether we talk about balancing your work life or, the unbalance of work life, what does that mean to you, Brad, in your life? Because I know we've talked about this in the past before, where, again, you just cleaned up your whole office and trying to organize everything, and so that you're not running around like a chicken with your head cut off, trying to figure out where the cable is.
Right. I have my kids, I have my family, and it's very important to me to have time for them. And one of the biggest reasons that I really appreciate being able to kind of make my own schedule and work from home and at somewhat at my own leisure, is that if they need something or whatever in the middle of the day, I don't have to ask my boss if I can leave the office for an hour I could just do that. So that's important to me. When I find that I don't have time to do those things, and like every time something comes up in the middle of the day and I like feel sick to my stomach because it's going to stress me out, I know that there's something wrong. I know everything's working when I can just kind of go, oh yeah, I can do that. Or if a customer calls and they have an emergency and I go, yeah, I can do that. If the more I can kind of just flow with life, because you have to, the more I know that I'm in the right place. Right now, I'm not there. I'm getting back there. I've been really anytime that somebody pops up and goes, oh, I need this, I'm like, oh no, I didn't need that today. And then that's been happening almost every day. So I'm like, okay, what's going on? So anyway, I've been working on that, but just in general, just in the past 5 years, there's been a progression to try to just maintain that life balance as work becomes bigger and I get more clients. So that's, we can talk more about it as we exchange, but like that's really what I'm trying to do, is be able to just flow with life, do well with family and with friends and with work, and not be stressed out all the time and all that. So
that's good. Now, Adam, from your standpoint, we were just talking before the show of how you were able to get away for the weekend and your business just kind of ran itself and,
Yep.
Just was able to operate on its own. So you were able to get away and, go learn more about your business and do that type of thing. But what does work-life balance or unbalanced mean to you?
So one thing I really struggled with in the first couple of years was working constantly in order to make the business work, really, in order to get it off the ground. I was working a full-time job, doing the business night and weekend, all weekend long. Now, when we started, we didn't have any kids. Soon after we did, and now they're 4 and 6. So what's really good about that is it makes me step away from the business, because now, like, my son is in soccer. He apparently just started talking about wanting to get into Cub Scouts and things like that. So it really pushes me to just walk away from the business. And as I've recently learned, it'll be fine. It'll still run. Everything will be there Monday or whatever the day may be. So that was a struggle for me, though, because I really like what I do and I like helping my customers and making sure everything is good. But it did cause some stress with never being available at home. So now I really push, no, we're not doing it after hours, or we're not doing it during the weekends. If we are, then it's going to cost enough to make it okay for myself and my family.
And that's good, because I think a lot of people, and the reason I basically titled this Work-Life Unbalanced is I think exactly what Adam said, is there's a time in your business, a lot of times when you first start, where maybe you're putting in more hours. The problem is when you're doing that for 2, 5, 10, 15, 20 years and you never see an end in sight. And I remember saying something. I used to do breakfast with a few gentlemen years and years ago in the morning, and before we'd all go to work, and we would meet on Friday mornings. And I remember this guy telling me, he was an engineer, he worked for Ford, and he would talk about how he goes in before 8 o'clock. I think he goes in at 7, and a lot of times he wasn't leaving till 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And as an engineer, engineers will understand this, and people in business will understand this. The work never goes away. So it's always from one project to another, and it never, ever stops. But there's almost this thing, and it's not really there, but it's kind of put out by the company to say, you need to have this done in a certain amount of time. And while there's some truth to that, the reality is there's always work to do. It never goes away. So as he was sitting around his office and looking at other people that would come in at 9 and be gone at 3 or 5 or whatever, he's kind of like, why am I doing this when I'm not really getting anywhere? I said, let me ask you a question. I said, will the work be there tomorrow? He said, yeah. I said, then go in, work all day, do a good day's work, and go home and be satisfied with that. That's all anybody can expect out of you. So a lot of times in a business, you will hear these stories, and it's almost like this, I think I've heard Mike McAllitt say this badge of honor I'm the hardest worker in the room. I work 24/7. Well, let me tell you this. If you're that person, you're stupid. And let's just call it what it is. Because the reality is, maybe I shouldn't use that word. Actually, that word in my house is actually a swear word, so I probably shouldn't say that. Let's just say ignorant. We'll go with that. So maybe you're ignorant to the fact of that the work will be there the next day, and the day after that, and the day after that. As a matter of fact, if you really think about it, the work that you do on a daily basis is what you get paid for and keeps you working. So that's kind of a good thing. But I understand from a standpoint of our human nature also, and I'm this way, man, you want to talk about busy. I've got a full-time job and I don't work 40 hours a week. I work 60 to 80 hours every week. That's just my job. Then I've got the business on the side. Then I've got the podcast. Then I've got my family. And I've got all this stuff I'm trying to balance out. And it's hard. But there are points in my schedule where there's a ton of things that I have on a list on my plate right now that need to be done. And all I do is every day I take a couple of those off the list, just one or two. And my wife will go, "Hey, do you want to watch some TV?" Now I have a choice. Now in the past, my choice would have been, no, I really got stuff to do. And I've got to sit behind my computer. I've got to get this done. I've got to do the bills. I've got whatever, send invoices out. It doesn't really matter. I'm just working. What I've learned is you need to take time or you will drive yourself insane. You will be unhealthy as you get older because the abuse, the mental and physical abuse that you put yourself through in your 20s and 30s, it don't work that way in your 40s and 50s. So you need to be aware of things will wear on you and wear you down. And then the next thing you know, you're sitting in a hospital bed, looking up. No, John, I'm not talking about you. John Reed apparently was doing a Facebook Live, said, "Hey, from the hospital." I'm like, "Dude, what are you doing in there?" Anyways, John, glad everything's okay though. All right. So that's kind of the way you have to take that time and go, no, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to go sit down and relax. Even though I still have things on my plate, I still have things that need to be done. They will be there the very next day. So that's kind of the work-life balance that I'm working on. But understand that yes, sometimes when you're getting things started first, you're going to put in a little bit more time. It doesn't mean you have to kill yourself, but you're going to put in more time to get it up and running. Maybe you got to work on marketing a little bit more for your business. Maybe you got to work on your processes in your business. Maybe you got to work on organizing crap so you can find your cable. I don't know, but for everyone, it's going to be a little bit different. So anyways, that's kind of my take on it. And Brad, what do you have to say for some of the things that I brought up there?
Yeah, I mean, those are all excellent points. I definitely worked way too much, and I have a thing that I think a lot of people will relate to. I tend to be a night person. It's just my nature. So I try to live during the normal people hours, but if I don't continually just try to stay on that schedule, I will immediately slide into a night schedule. That's just where my body wants to go. So there's that. And then you combine that with when if something's not working, or you have to, maybe something's working just well enough, but to fix it or to improve it or upgrade it, you got to take it down. Let's say a server or a storage or a network, whatever. If you do that in the middle of the day, people are freaking out because they need to get to work and they're constantly going, you can feel that they're stressing or they're telling you constantly, when is this going to be done? When is this going to be done? So you combine those two things. And I have a tendency to go, you know what? I can do this after hours. It'll just be easier. I won't have to deal with you guys pacing in the hallway. And I am a night person anyway, so this works fine. So that would just became kind of my go-to. Like, oh, I'll just do this later. I'll do it at night. And then 8 o'clock in the morning rolls around, and somebody's going to call you and ask you for like an email question or something, and you were up all night working on the server thing. So I am definitely I definitely push people like, hey, I'm going to have to do this. Like, what? You want to start it during lunch? You might come back from lunch and it's not quite done yet, but I can't work all night unless it's an emergency. And so there's, now we have after hours charges, and people understand. They're like, hey, we understand you're basically on call from 8 a.m. to 2 o'clock in the morning with the spread of clients that you have. So you've got to tighten that up or you're going to die. And like, yeah, exactly. So I've been pushing that. Over the years, I've separated my workspace from my living space. I mean, my office, I haven't, what I like, I think it's pretty nice. I still would like to kind of make it a little nicer, but like my office is pretty nice. It's a finished room, but it's in the garage. So I go in the house and I don't look at work. That's and then I go into my office and I don't look at my life. And so I can separate those things. And also it's nice with the sound barrier and stuff. So that's something that was important to me. But yeah, getting sleep when you're supposed to sleep, and then work when you're supposed to work, that's been the thing that I've been working on mostly for the last like 6 months. And I've been having some success with that. And then the other stuff is just, I've been planning, trying to get better at planning, scheduling everything. If my daughter asks me for a ride on Thursday or whatever, I put that on my calendar. And if I know that I need to sit down and do whatever, bill paying and then on the weekends a lot, I'll prep out meals so that when we go to cook on Tuesday night, we just kind of pull out what's prepped, throw it on the stove and have dinner and not have to go, oh, we got to run to the grocery store and then prep and then eat. And then we're eating at 8 o'clock at night instead of at like 6:30 or something. So those are just stuff. That's what I'm doing now to try to just help get that back. And that's been beneficial. So.
All right, good. And Adam, so what things have you, obviously you talked about in the beginning, you were working a lot of hours getting your business up and running. So what other things have you changed in your business to make your life a little more balanced, a little better health-wise for you?
Sure. So we did the same things, oh, well, we can do this after hours so it doesn't affect you. And really, it was a simple statement made by Matt Rainey on Podnutz Pro. He was talking to a customer, and the customer said, well, can you do it over lunch? Or what are you doing over lunch? And he says, well, I'm having lunch. What are you doing? And that simple line went, you know what? I have a life too. I have a business and business hours just like you do. So we're going to do this during the day. Now, there are exceptions. If it's an extended outage, a server replacement or things, we'll try to schedule as we can. But they know that there's a project price for that. And we plan it well in advance. It's not just, oh, well, this broke because we didn't listen to you and now you have to work all night type of thing. Another thing, the best manager I ever had told me once, we work to live, we don't live to work. And if you find yourself in that position, you need to find a different job.
Oh, that's good.
That's good advice. Yeah,
that's real good. Yeah, it's one of those things. Sometimes you don't think about the simple things because it's hard, right? And I know this is for male, female, it doesn't really matter, but when you're doing a job, you want to go out there and you want to get it done. You want to be, get it off your plate, move on to something else. And the problem is that, like we said, that the list is ever growing. It's always being recycled. There's always new things coming on that list. And the reality is you really can't catch up. Here's the one thing that I thought when I was in my 20s. Now, hear me, people, especially you young ones out there. When I thought I was in my 20s, I thought that when I got older and my kids were raised and some of my kids were out of the house and my kids could, they were self-sufficient. I thought my life would be easier and I would have more time for myself. Okay. Enjoy your 20s and 30s because after that, it's all downhill from there. No, I kid. But the reality is, I don't know what it is. And maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm nuts because I love to take on every project I can possibly find. And I throw myself into it because I don't know why I have this sick sense of enjoyment of helping other people and talking and just, doing things that are beneficial. So whatever. That's just me. But I've gotten busier as I've gotten older. And then you have things like grandchildren. All of a sudden it's like, wait a minute. I raised my kids. What am I doing now? I'm going and flying and seeing grandkids, and it's just it never ever stops. So you just have to come to that realization that it doesn't get slower, and that's good because these are the things that keep you going, and quite honestly, keep your mind going, keep you healthy and moving, and all that kind of stuff. So definitely look at it as not a bad thing. I think personally, it's my personal opinion, and you can look around you and you'll form this opinion too, is that retirement is a 100% facade. It doesn't exist. A lot of people think it does. It doesn't. There's a few people out there that may have retired and they kind of go out and do their own things. And it's not an impossibility. But the problem is a lot of times when you stop doing, things start to go in a negative fashion. So we're made to constantly be doing something. So when you look at those things, just understand that it's okay, but take your time, and there will always be the next day. Now, do you guys, and I know a lot of technicians out there in their businesses do this, do you guys sometimes have to set up things, project work or other things on the weekends when you normally wouldn't be working maybe?
So if we're doing like a server replacement, we'll typically schedule that on a weekend, but it's scheduled well in advance. Everybody knows, everybody's schedule is expectations are set, really is what it comes down to. So we'll do that, but that's really the only time I can think of where that's the case. Typically anything else, unless it's a new build, but that's a total special case in itself. But other than that, it can happen during business hours for us.
Nice. Brad?
I do actually work on the weekends. I try not to work on Sundays pretty much ever. It would have to be a pretty significant emergency for that to happen. But Saturdays I will work a lot, but I trade that for having a day during the week that I will schedule really light or nothing at all. And the nice thing about that is that's usually a day that I can be more like my kids on the weekends, they kind of just watch TV and whatever, or go off with their friends or something. But they kind of need more dad time on the weekdays. That's when they're either at work or at school or both. They need food at more prompt times because they're on more of a schedule. They might need homework help. They might need rides, all that stuff. So I can be more like family day and everyone gets more out of it on Tuesday. So sometimes I'll trade that weekend day of work to make sure that I don't fall behind, and then I'll just while they're at school on Tuesday, I might sleep in or go do whatever. And I have another friend who's self-employed, so we might go to the beach or something, and then go do family stuff. And then so that's my trade-off, and that actually kind of works out nice because it is nice to work when there's no one in the office on systems that you've got to kind of bring up and down, like I was saying before. But yeah, I work on weekends.
Okay.
But to your point of talking about as you continue to live life and things never get less busy, that's very true. And I don't remember what book I was reading. It was years ago, and it's not a new idea, but just say no to things. You have to say no to things. In fact, your go-to in your head, because for me it's oh yeah, we could totally do that. It's no big deal. You almost want to program yourself for your first response to be like, no, and have to convince yourself why you're going to say yes. Because it's very easy to get overloaded. I spot things that I could do well for or help people with or whatever, and I just like to help people and do stuff. And I could pick up a new project or a new little, helperton thing that I'm doing for someone all day long, every day, and then I would never have time for anything what's important. So yeah, you kind of have to just keep your slate as clean as possible because it'll fill up no matter what you do.
I've heard from a couple different people that what they say to that is they say, unless it's a heck yes, it's an automatic no. In other words, it's got to be something where you're just like, yes, yeah, that's what I do. That's where I'm oriented towards, that type of thing. Now, going back to talking about calendaring and all that kind of stuff. So I've tried all these different approaches, and as busy as I am, I had to come up with an approach that will work for me. Maybe this will help some people out. So I've tried the to-do lists. I've tried the the OneNotes and in all this kind of stuff, and Wunderlist and whatnot. I've tried Google, whatever Google's thingy is. And basically what I had to do, and I think somebody mentioned in the chat room, is that I had to schedule, or somebody might have said it on here. I get confused, squirrel. But somebody had said that they schedule stuff in their calendar. I think it was you, Brad. You were talking about that. I will schedule things in my calendar, and that's the only way that I can know exactly what is taken up in my day. Now, everything from my work schedule, if I'm working 8 hours, I block that 8 hours out. If I'm working 12 hours, I block that 12 hours out. If I'm going to the chiropractor, that goes in my calendar. If I'm setting up for this podcast, which I do one day during the week after work, it's in my calendar. If I'm sending out emails, if I'm checking emails, you've got to schedule all that. Now, I'm going to say this, Greg Fultz, you're nuts. But anyways, he basically said that in chat room, he just got done clearing out 9,000 emails. So when he said that, it brought to mind, I said, I look at my inbox a lot of times, and I use 7 different email addresses inside of Outlook. So I keep them separate. It works better for my head. I know a lot of people love to dump all the stuff inside of, one inbox. My brain does not work that way. But here's what I've done. I'm like everybody else. I will sign up for things, tech information, this newsletter, that newsletter, get me on this list and get me that video every day and this and that and the other. And I've literally gone through, and I have to do this probably every 3 months because the list will start getting big again. And I go in and I will unsubscribe from a lot of those emails. I just don't need them. And then when my wife's not looking, I go in her email box and I unsubscribe her from the thousands of emails that she never reads. So it's kind of a win-win situation. No, it's just one of those things. I know how an email inbox can get just jam-packed with stuff. Now, what do you guys do when it comes to dealing with things like email?
So I think I have right around 7 email accounts as well. And I was just looking at it now. I just pulled it up in Outlook, and I think I'm actually going to get rid of 2 of them. They're not used that much, but I have separate email accounts for a lot of things. Like I have my personal one, I have my support account, and then we have a couple other business ones. But so normally I would just let things build up in each account. And then over the last probably 6 months or so, I've created a lot of folders for each account, and I've been trying to do like an inbox zero thing. So what I do is I will leave it in my inbox until it's dealt with, and then I'll leave it highlighted or whatever. But I know if I put it in a folder unread, I'm never going to see it again. So I leave it in my inbox until it's dealt with. But I try to keel through those at least a few times a week, if not daily.
That's a good strategy, Brad.
Kind of similar. I have my personal Gmail, and then I have my work email, and then I have and for a few of the clients where I'm like very hands-on managing a lot of their stuff, I have an email account with them too. So, but I do not blend them into one inbox because that would be insane. There's time when I deal with this and there's time when I deal with that. But I have different Chrome. When Chrome came out with the different profiles, and you could have a Chrome window over here where you're signed in as home resident, like my home business, or I'm tripping over words, but my personal Gmail. And then I've got this one over here where I'm work. And then I can open another one where I'm this company and this company. So I have it also helps to have multiple screens, but whatever. I have like multiple things going so that I can look, okay, now I'm going to dig into my, mostly bills is what I get in my personal, and then all that stuff. I also do what Adam said about keeping things unread in my inbox if they haven't been dealt with. But I'm trying to get away from that because when I was the most successful with keeping all this stuff organized, I had basically 3 parts. If it was in the inbox and unread, it needed to be dealt with. But mostly it just needed to be, if it's a 2-second response, just respond to it. If it's something that's an actual time and a place event, it goes on the calendar. And if it's something that needs to be done and it actually is going to get done and needs to be done, then it would go into a to-do list of some sort. And the best one that I had really worked out. I had like a solid system, and I think that was one of the first shows I was talking to you about years ago, was Astrid. It was the best to-do app in the world, and then Yahoo bought it and killed it. I'm still angry about that. I tried like 3 others. Ended up using Wunderlist. Wunderlist is actually wonderful, but I never got there where I was with Astrid with my flow. And then Microsoft bought Wunderlist, and so it's going to go away. And now it's going to be Microsoft To Do, and I've played with it, but it's like now I have to create a system again in a flow. So right now it's whatever's in my inbox and calendar, and then you know, it's okay. Oh, but I also use Gmail's priority inbox to filter my email.
Really?
And it's a little, I don't know, maybe because I'm from California and I'm a hippie or whatever. I know that some important things are not going to end up in the priority inbox. Some of them are going to get dropped. And sometimes things that are not important are going to end up in my priority inbox. And you can kind of figure those things out as you go. I don't care. You know what? All email is important. Like everything is important to somebody. And when it hits my inbox, if I don't see it, they'll hit me up again. They'll call me. I don't know. If I miss a couple emails here and there, it's not going to be the end of the world. It's fine. So for the most part, since I've been using it since it started, like day one when they announced it, and it was in my interface and I turned it on, I've been dialing it in, and it actually is. I hardly ever miss anything that's important. And if something gets through that's not really important, you just start telling it, "Hey, filter that out. That's not. I don't want to see that anymore." And then I don't unsubscribe to anything. So if it comes into I just unprioritize it. Like this is not important. Gmail, don't, you know. And then every once in a while I'll dig through the bottom of the barrel stuff that, you know, isn't in the priority inbox and make sure that you know, you look at the first 20 and you're like, all right, fine. None of that. I don't need to read any of that. It's fine. So then I just live in my priority inbox.
Interesting. Okay. Now you've taught me something new, because yeah, I usually shut that off, but I can see the benefits of doing that, because I've thought about, you know, setting up flags on your emails so that they go into certain folders. I just have not ever done that. And so I've come to this conclusion that less is more, but maybe there's a different way of doing it.
Well, like if Adam said before, if it goes into a folder, you're never going to see it again. I've done that before. I actually have a couple filters where I was trying that. I'm like, oh, and I even scheduled a reminder in my calendar every week to go into those folders, and I ignore that reminder every time.
So yeah, I guess I really have three places I go to. I have my calendar, which if it's personal life goes on there manually. I have my email, and then the third one is my ticketing system, which is Repair Shopper. So if it's something that needs to be a ticket, it gets created as a ticket, and if it needs to be scheduled, it's rescheduled through Repair Shopper, which goes to my calendar. That way everything is kind of in sync.
That makes sense. So there's a lot of different ways to do things, and I know John Dubinsky and I've had this conversation before about, you know, trying to live in one universe. And what I've discovered, which I think is what a lot of people have discovered, Brad, you've gone through different to-do lists. Now, from my standpoint, when I look at the things that I use and the things that make sense to me, like I will keep file folders for my business in OneDrive, etc. Now I keep a backup copy elsewhere, so in case anything really gets messed up on it, I can go back to that information. But that way, if I'm on my laptop or my desktop, doesn't matter. I can get to the same file structure, no problem. And nowadays, with most things, especially like Repair Shopper being browser-based, it doesn't really matter. You can live in a browser on your phone, which I still think is insane, people, but whatever. If you like doing this, that's fine. But that's up to you. I would carry a laptop or something like that, or at least a tablet, something of some size. But then again, I do most stuff in-house anyways. So yeah, I use things like OneNote. OneNote is a great, if you just want a notebook for keeping notes for, I've got fixes for computers. I've got information for the podcast. I've got personal stuff I use for categorizing things that I have a general stores list that I use for work, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a great, if you like notebooks with colored tabs, OneNote is awesome. Now, for a to-do list, I use to-do list on Microsoft. And because I use the Microsoft launcher on my phone, there's a cool little thing on there where you can put tasks, and I actually have a task list on the Microsoft launcher for Android. And so quick tasks, things that need to be dealt with, like within a few days, I will put my tasks on there. And it's just a quick spot that I know I can get to on the phone. Because I don't know if you guys are like me, but unfortunately, we get so inundated with all these different systems, and we've had some built up, we've changed some over, but then you go, where did I put that? Insert whatever. And next thing you know, you're taking 5, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 40 minutes to find a file.
Or recreate it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Maybe that's easier, right? So, I mean, how do you guys deal with your digital stuff that you have to deal with on a regular basis? Are you able to keep it in a place where you can find it easily, or is it like Brad's cord that he found missing in a box somewhere?
Go ahead, Adam.
A little of both. So we use a filing system on a shared drive, and so we have kind of separated. So like I have one that's all like software and tools and things, and then that's broken down by categories, and then we have one that's more operations focused. It's actually called operations. Now, even with just the two of us, it's kind of getting to be a mess. And I actually made that comment the other day that I really need to go back in and reorganize it and group things better. But for the most part, I know where things are. But it's still kind of my own chaotic mess.
Well, and that's so a lot of people, I will go through and once a year, I actually go and reorganize my folders. Now, just understand that if you're using some sort of cloud backup system, that yes, you will have the you'll have the iterations of the files backed up previously. So it's not like you're going to lose anything. Just understand that your computer will be chunking, at least the way I do it, your computer will be chunking away for a few days while it's trying to catch up with all the file folders and hierarchy and the names you've changed. The other thing too is one of the things I try to think about is, I don't know if you guys have ever had it, but if you have a file folder with a 252 character name, or you have a file inside that file folder with a real long name, a lot of times those things can get locked and they become a super big mess. So I will try to make some simplified things. And Adam, that's a good point. I never know exactly what to call certain things. I like operations, because operations kind of makes you think, in a corporate world anyways, it makes you think of, yeah, here's where all my documents are that basically for running my business. You know, I think I have things like, I don't know, Technic docs.
Yeah, so like we have operations, and then under that we'll have like accounting, classes we've done, customers, legal, marketing, categories. So we try to put it into a category. Okay. So at least it narrows it down to this pile of junk that you got to go through rather than everything.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. And I went on the paperless mission before I started this job, my own personal business. 2 jobs before, it was a new growing company, and so there was opportunity to, like, nobody had their established stupid system. Sorry, Jeff, I know I'm swearing in your house, but it was kind of from scratch. So I was given I'm like, hey guys, I need time to set this up right. And so kind of like get off my back for a minute and let me just do that. And they were like, yeah, great. And they still use some of that stuff today, which is awesome. And then the next job I was at, my job, like 50% of my job was to organize files. Like, we were maintaining the core information that is the core product of that company. And there was thousands and thousands of documents that were recipes in this case. But my job was to keep those and be like the keeper of those. So I was like, the person to go to. So I reorganized all of it. So then I took that, and when I started this company, that was already like my habit. So I just did it. I just set up. So I have my business. I use Google Drive. Oh, any system I use has to be accessible on my phone, the cloud, and on my home computer. That's the rule. That's rule number 1. But yeah, my folders are set up really nice. I have my client folder, and then I actually divide that further: highly active clients, medium active clients, and then like one-time people that I barely hear from, and then residential and that kind of stuff. So most of the time I'm going to the top folder, like boom, active client, and then there's like only 4 people in there, and then I can just quickly drill into that. And then it's broken down. I have a standard set of folders that go into each client folder. As soon as I onboard a new client, I don't care if I am ever going to put anything in the receipts folder, but I've got a receipts folder for them. If we purchase anything, we like store the receipts there. And anyway, so I've actually been pretty good at, as much of a chaotic mess as my office can get and my inventory and my physical supplies, I'm actually like really good about paperless. like filing and digital because I don't know. It's like it got ingrained in me for a period of 10 years or something. So
nice. So now, when you guys have customers that have a chaotic mess on their computers, and you've told them, listen, we really need to go through this. You've got like multiple backups of QuickBooks.
You mean all customers?
Yes, we need to get a handle on this before your computer dies. How do you force that issue? And are you able to get people to actually listen, or do they wait until something bad happens?
For us, normally we wait until a disaster happens. Because you can tell them until you're blue in the face. If the system works for them, who am I to tell them different?
Right.
But so when you have a screen that has more icons on the desktop than you can actually see, it's time to make a change. So yeah, like if we're doing a hard drive replacement, usually we'll do a clone. But sometimes what we'll do in that case on really bad scenarios is we'll take everything that's in the desktop and put it in one folder on the desktop. And then we'll ask them or tell them, you know, if you go in here and you need something frequently, fine, put it on the desktop. Otherwise, this folder needs to go somewhere else, whether it's in your documents or not, because I'm not going to delete your data, but this is just staring at it gives me a headache. You know, but you know, like I said, if it works for them, who am I to tell them different, really?
Now, one of the things when it comes to organizing, and one of the things I learned a while back was a lot of I learned this on Windows 8. A lot of people still don't do this. I do this because it makes, especially on the desktop or the laptop, either way. But I can press my Windows key, and I've made shortcuts to all the folders I go into on a regular basis, and then I categorize them. Matter of fact, I don't use the stupid little, I said it again, the little start menu that comes up for Windows 10. I make it full screen, so my 30-inch screen sees the whole thing. I see big icons with big words that I can see at my age, and it works perfectly fine for me. And so it takes me seconds to hit the Windows key, go in and click on that folder to go into whatever folder I want, because you can favor or make a shortcut to any of those folders, and then it's not all over your desktop just where you're trying to look for it. And it keeps it very organized and handy, in my opinion. And I think if you could teach some customers to do that, but I think we've been at a point where a lot of customers are set in their ways, or even us as techs, we're so set in our ways, we didn't want to see anything new. Man, there's still a lot of people that go, well, Windows 7 is the most awesome thing in the world, Brad. And the reality is, no, it's not. It sucks. You just don't know it yet.
So I prefer Windows 7 too, but whatever.
Right.
The only thing I use my start menu for, or 90%, is to turn my computer off or restart it. Other than that, I use the taskbar, so I pin things down there. And you can do documents that way too. Like I have Word and Excel pinned down there, and if you right click, then you have your quick list, and you can pin those items as well. Same with File Explorer. So that's what I do. Works for me.
And I do partially that too. The problem was my shortcuts got so big on the taskbar, even on a 2K monitor, I was running out of room. And when it started going down into the drop-down menu, I'm like going, this ain't working.
Yeah, I don't have that. I'm a little less chaotic than that.
Yeah, I do the same thing that I tell my customers on my taskbar. Like, if you have so much, how often do you use each of these things that you've got pinned? In fact, wait, what is this? I'll do this all the time. I'll look at it and go, what the heck is that?
Oh, and that's why I like the big. That's why I like the big things that I can see with the name underneath it, so I know exactly what it is. Because a lot of times on the taskbar, yeah, you can hover over it. And Adam, I agree with you. If you're looking at Word, Excel, PowerPoint, whatever, it's nice because you can, or any Adobe files or whatever, you can right click on there and you can you can pin documents in there, and so you can go right to those documents every time. So I do use a combination of that and the Windows key at the same time. All right. Well, I think we've talked a lot about, hopefully we've given some tips and different things to think about in your business, as far as you can't work yourself to death. You've got to be able to have that time away from your business to be able to go relax, spend time with the kids, spend time with the wife. And it just makes more sense. It'll keep you even though it seems like it's always hard to catch up, you kind of have to train yourself to not be in that mode all the time where you're just like, I got to have this done. And I get it. I get it. I'm with everybody out there. I tell my wife all the time, I said, I want to get it done because it's weighing on my brain. But you have to teach yourself to go, it doesn't matter. It'll be there tomorrow. And let's go ahead and handle that. And as far as organizing and doing things like that, we've said this before and I'll say it again. You need to set this stuff. You need to schedule it. And it would be better to schedule things 1 month for a couple hours, or, once a month for a couple hours, or maybe an hour a week or 30 minutes a week or something where you sit down and your sole task during that time is whether it's organizing physically, digital documents or whatever to make your life better. The problem is we get stuck in our ways and we never want to change anything. We never want to do anything different. And so, but at the same time, we're frustrated because nothing's changing and it's not getting any better. Well, if you don't work on things, it's never going to get better for you. So with that being said, let's go ahead and take a quick break. And Brad, I know you have to head out here in a minute, so we're going to let you say your goodbyes. And then we've got a couple of questions, or if you can stick around for one, that'd be great. And we'll go from there. But if you would like to support this show, go to patreon.com/computer repair podcast. That will get you in the secret Facebook group where we have a nice bunch of texts that will help you, business owners that actually care and are not mean. And they will answer any questions. And everybody's been a humongous help in there. Really appreciate that. It's nice having, I think we have 87 people involved now, and that's just awesome. So great to have that. Plus, you'll get some inside information, and I am going to start doing more Facebook Lives in there. I've started recently with some of the new things that we've been announcing. So excited about that. And it's just time for me to maybe vent, unwind, hang out a little bit and answer some questions via video format versus, especially when there's a lot of people asking the same types of questions. So anyways, I want to thank our newest Patreon supporter, Ron Cervantes, and I hope I said your last name right. If not, let me know. And I was able to meet him a couple weeks ago, so that was awesome. He became a Patreon supporter. Appreciate it. And I want to thank all of our other Patreon supporters for your continued support. Really appreciate it. It definitely helps pay the bills around here. So let's go ahead and, Brad, you got a couple minutes for a quick question?
Yeah, let's do one. Yeah.
Okay. So the question is, one of my customers, has 2 HP printers at different locations. And the problem is, the only way I've been able to get this to work for the last couple of years, she used to have it where she could go from one printer or one home to the other home, and the printer that was there would hook up. What I'm finding now is when she's installing, or when I've installed the drivers for those HP printers, it'll show it at the last location it was at, but when she moves it to another location, it's not showing up. Have you guys ever seen that, or have you seen maybe a workaround to have 2 HP printers actually be on the same computer and just be able to switch from one to the other?
Wait, so are you talking about like printing remotely?
No, I mean physically. So 2 different networks. Like she'll visit her son, and her son has a 69 whatever, 6970 or something like that. But at her house in Chicago, she'll have an 8710. And so what happens is, I've gone and tried to run the scan and fix programs through HP drivers, and nothing. I basically have to uninstall the printer and reinstall the printer where she's at, and that printer will work. But before, she was able to switch from one default to another. And so this is a weird one. Like I said, I haven't been able to track anything down to actually solve this particular problem. So I don't know if it's a combination of the HP driver or maybe Windows 10 updates and HP drivers. I don't know.
So I've never seen this, but I don't have anybody in that situation that's brought it to my attention. I've never, seen the situation. But I mean, yeah, I mean, it sounds simple enough that I could see if they were the same printer, same model or something, you could have that issue. The only thing that jumps out to me is make sure everything's up to date, whether it be firmware on the printer or the Windows. Other than that, I'm not much help here.
Okay.
So Windows 10?
Yes.
Okay. So introduced in Windows 7 Professional, there was this idea that if you had like basically a laptop and you're moving around from place to place, that your default printer would change accordingly. Like Windows would recognize that you were on this network, and so this was the last printer you used here, and it was your default while you were here, and then you go over there. And they've kept that going all the way through. And Windows 10 still has that checkbox, right, where it's like, let Windows manage my default printer.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So obviously that needs to be turned on. The
problem is, though, in the HP software, that other printer doesn't even show up. So that's where I'm having an issue. It's now in Windows knows that it's there, but it's not connected. It won't connect. And the HP software says, yeah, it's not even connected. It's not showing it. And the only thing I could think of is because they're two HP printers, maybe they're similar enough that the driver and the software is not. I mean, I would think this thing would be able to change on the fly. It shouldn't be that hard, right?
No, yeah, it shouldn't. So you're downloading or installing HP drivers for these?
Yes.
Like you're using an HP installer. So that's normally what I would do too. But HPs tend to be one of the printers that tend to work better, like work okay if you let Windows, like if you don't install the HP software and you go into Windows and just say find this new printer and install it directly through Windows and let Windows pick the driver and do the install itself. You might try that approach.
Okay.
I don't normally do it that way, but I've done it, and I've tried it experimentally with Windows 10 throughout the last couple of years. I'll just go, let's see if this works, and on a lot of like the business multifunction printers, it tries, but it doesn't work. You might be able to print, but it won't be able to access any of the features like double-sided, black and white color, like all that stuff doesn't usually work. But with HP, like DeskJets or like the inkjets or whatever, if they're relatively recent printers, you might try like uninstalling them and letting Windows Print Management handle those and see what happens.
Okay.
I've never seen this exact situation, but
I haven't either. So it was a new one for me. Now, Greg in the chat room basically says maybe try renaming the printers when installing them. That's something I could try too. So that's a good one. So I will look into it. She's going to be back in Chicago here in a couple weeks, and I will remote in and take care of it, and we'll go from there. I mean, she had this problem before. She has a brother printer in, I think, Japan, and HP printer in Chicago, and another HP printer in Canton. So, anyways, all right.
So it's only an issue with the HPs.
Correct.
I'm a big fan of Brother, so maybe she just needs another one of those.
Brother, for sure.
That's a good point. Yeah, again, HP is such a big printer brand. You would think it would the software would go, yeah, I see both these printers. That's cool because we love that you use HP products. No, we're going to stick it to you.
They're in the business of selling ink, Jeff. They're not in the business of selling printers or software.
Somebody else just mentioned, is there an HP universal driver? And I believe I've done that already, and I'm still getting the same thing where basically I have to just, whatever driver it is, whether I'm using just a universal driver or the whole software package, I've done both. It's like you have to install the last, wherever you're at, you have to install that one, and it'll work until you move it to the next one, and then you got to reinstall that one. So it's just nuts.
When you're running the installer once at location A and then again at location B,
correct?
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So, anyways, all right. So, Brad, I know you got to go, so I'm going to let you get out of here and go ahead and let people know where they can find out more about you, talk to you offline, online, wherever, and then we'll finish up. We got one more email after this.
Cool. Yeah. Adam, I know we talked about trying to get on a show together, so great to see you on the podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, Good show, guys. I got to split, but find me at Brad at TTCScomputerservices.com if you want to shoot me an email. Lately, though, the best place to interact with me has been the Facebook, the private podcast Facebook group. I don't go to Facebook daily, and I miss a lot of notifications, but I actually do go in there and check and catch up with people in there. So that's probably the best thing to do if you want to ask me anything or get in touch.
Awesome, man. Appreciate having you, and we will get you on again.
All right. Have a good time, guys. I'll see you soon. Bye.
All right. Sounds good. All right. So let's see. We got one more email, and then we'll chat here for a minute. But this one, it's this from Erwin Velbus. It says, Jeff, I really enjoyed number 290. Very practical, geek quality, not over the top, good dialogue, and banter between you three. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your acumen. Those are big words, man. Listening always, Erwin Velbus. You must be a smart dude. No, I really appreciate that. Thank you for appreciating what we're doing. I'm glad you're getting something out of it. That's basically why we do these podcasts, is to share it with the community and come together. So hopefully we'll be able to meet more people in the future. And I know that's the number one thing that I really like doing is meeting people outside of the podcast in real life and getting a chance to shake his or her hand and just chat a little bit. So anyways, appreciate that. So Adam, do you have any last words before we get on out of here?
Nope. Sure don't.
Well, I appreciate you coming out and sharing again with us. It's been awesome as always. And just so everybody knows, before I let Adam say his goodbyes and whatnot, I will be in the Sacred Facebook group. There has been some people that have talked about coming on the podcast, and we will start getting those scheduled over the next few months. So be on the lookout for that. I will be emailing people, letting people know in the secret Facebook group, and also others that are not in that group. I've also started sending emails in scheduling to get them on the show. So just look for those things. If you never get communication from me, like if you send me an email and you never receive anything back, email me again, because I send feedback to everyone that emails me. I reply to everyone at some point or another, and just let me know, hey, I didn't receive anything, because then I'll know, hey, it got lost in the ether somewhere. All right, Adam, appreciate you coming out. And if you want to let people know where they can find out more about you or chat with you or, hang out offline, online, wherever.
Sure. So I did come up with one thing quick. Speaking of being on the show, for years, I sat in the background, watched every episode, and went, I need to get on there. But being kind of introverted, as most techs are, it's like, oh, I don't know if I want to do that. But you know what? As soon as you've been on one, I've been on quite a few of them now. It's a good time. So, try to put your fear behind you, and it's just a good time talking with the guys. But you can find me in the Facebook group. You can email me, support@itproiowa.com, and I'm sure I'll be on another show here.
Awesome, man. Appreciate it. All right, come join us live for the Computer Repair Podcast every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern over at podnutz.com/CRP Live. It's always fun if people joining in on a conversation by hanging out in the chat room. You can send an email to podnutz@podnutz.com or leave a voicemail at 734-335-1000. If you don't want to come on the show, but everybody should, go ahead and give us a call and we'll play it on the show. And there's a lot of smart people out there, and we would like to hear from every one of you. I want to thank everyone for listening and subscribing to the show. We'll see you next time on the Computer Repair Podcast.